I'd like to start the conversation. And first up, our speaker is Laszlo Jobbagy.
From the government side, from the strategy making, policy making side, we would like to provide level playing field for the market, for the competitors.
They might be adding a whole new level of regulation and uncertainty at a particularly difficult time. I don't see COVID having changed the landscape massively, but what it has done is it's driven politicians and journalists back home. They're very conscious of their reliance on digital, and I think that's tempting them to think that it's time for them to do something about it.
Actually, we're getting an increasing number of tools, be it legislation, be it competition tools, be it existing powers at an EU level, at a time also when individual member states are looking at how they might address issues. And so I think that there is a risk of uncertainty for businesses as to what rules apply to them in what context.
Now, how do we ensure the benefits of this new online world are fully maximized? And at the same time, the side effects or the downsides of this new world is minimized.
I think I'm very much concerned about the big world issues.
Well, for media regulation, the biggest problem is how to, regulate the news services, the digital environment. It's not the media that are responsible for everything now in the digital environment, it's also the users. And how to redistribute the obligations and rights within this environment.
How do we manage the cross-border challenge that is created by this new online world, where organizations are not specific to any country, so it becomes very difficult for regulatory organizations or countries to regulate and manage content, manage the taxation regimes, etc., etc.
Before COVID, we estimated 5 years for the market that might end up with a crash in terms of the financial situation of the European content market. Then came COVID, and as we know, the market really changed faster than ever.
Clearly, COVID has had an extreme impact on individual businesses and business sectors. So looking at Kinga's infographic, when you're looking at the likes of cinema, film, video, TV, you're thinking of across the whole value chain. When in a lockdown period, you've got no production. And so we've seen the impact of COVID on that. And we've also seen us to try and address that in terms of state aid and various restart schemes for production, so that the impact is minimized, because obviously there's the impact today, but there's the impact downstream in terms of available content and catalogue.
What we have seen is that till maybe COVID, most of the activities or things that were happening in this digital space were by the digital natives. And COVID has forced what I call the digital immigrants, those who are not digital natives, to also go onto the space because of no other choice.
At a time when there are more of us at home and demand is particularly higher, we've also seen the response of the European Commission and also the national competition authorities in terms of expediting reviews and giving some indications where cooperation might be feasible, which otherwise would have perhaps fallen foul of the competition rules, in order to mitigate some of the issues.
The problem is that currently we are seeing that the traditional media, so to say, are struggling, but the importance for those for democracy is just extreme. And I think this is what we are talking now as regulators when we are talking about media plurality.
So it has brought things to a fore and has created a forum and perhaps more of a political push and an increased focus on the space during this period.
The political dimension, I think, has been a growing concern, whether it's real or founded or not, that these companies we rely on so much are outside our jurisdiction, that they're largely large US corporations, and therefore there's a strong drive at the European level maybe to have some rebalancing to get back to Laszlo's level playing field between European and non-European companies. So I think that's also at work, which makes it even more complex.
Now, the Digital Services Act, currently in the debate as a new legislative proposal that is following the e-commerce directive, is talking about transparency, but it's also talking about addressing this gatekeeper role of the platforms. And I think there's a way forward. And also when we are talking about business-to-business relations, we already have a business-to-business regulation that is addressing the transparency problems. So I think that the basis, at least for the EU, the basis is there. Now we need to make most of it.
How do you measure size? How do you measure market share, market power? Well, probably you don't measure them in the same way as you do in other markets. And if so, what does that mean for development of a new competition tool?
Now we have separate TV, broadcast TV, measurement, radio, and so on. But this new global initiative that is led by the World Federation of Advertising in partnership with ISBA and ENA and leading marketers and companies, they got together last year starting this new work in order to create a cross-media indicator system and a new currency that we will be probably hear more about.
Something new is needed and something that is beyond or further than pure competition rules. And I would say this is, from my perspective, just the first step towards those kind of intelligence that is really needed for a changing regulatory environment. And I would definitely add that it's not only cross-media, but basically a socially reflective measurement type of intelligence is needed that is also reflective to social impact